Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked out of a conversation with that quiet sting in your chest, knowing something slipped? Even though you said everything you were supposed to, you stayed composed. You used logic. You spoke clearly. You thought you did it right. But they walked away feeling stronger, more certain, while you felt smaller. What just happened? It wasn't the content. It was the construction. Because words don't control perception. Structure does. You were taught to focus on clarity, to choose the right words, to explain yourself well. But the ones who win, they don't just speak. They choreograph. Every pause, every inflection, every shift in rhythm frames meaning before the mind even interprets it. Let me show you how fragile language actually is. Say this sentence out loud. I didn't say he stole the money. Now shift just one word, and you don't just change emphasis. You change the narrative. I didn't say he stole the money. So maybe someone else did. I didn't say he stole the money. But you implied it. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe it was someone else. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe he borrowed it. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe it was something else. Same sentence. Same vocabulary. But the structure, it tells 5 different stories. This is not language. This is leverage. Because every sentence you speak carries a syntax signature that determines whether you're received or resisted. The powerful don't argue harder. They don't explain longer. They structure what they say in a way that bypasses defenses and locks in perception. They use short fragments when they want to hit hard. They elongate rhythm when they want to build pressure. They pause when silence says more than words ever could. Because here's the paradox. You can whisper and still hold the room. You can stay vague and still dominate the frame. You can say almost nothing and still say everything. This isn't about sounding smart. This is about structural control. And once you understand how grammar fragments the mind or fuses certainty into a sentence, you'll realize something chilling. Power was never about volume. It was always about architecture. So in this video, I won't teach you what to say. I'll teach you how to structure your message so the frame speaks for you before you even finish the sentence. Let's begin. Let's break something subtle but deadly. You've been taught to focus on words. But words are just packaging. What really frames reality is sentence structure. The way a sentence begins, where it pauses, how it ends. It's rhythm, not reasoning that shapes how people feel. Let me show you something small. But surgical. Someone asks, so, you're just going to wear that? No direct insult. No confrontation. But you feel it, don't you? You feel the frame. Now try this. Is that what you chose? Same intention. Different structure. But both inject doubt without ever declaring it. This is what real influence looks like. Not loud. Not obvious. Just embedded. Because here's the truth. Structure is subtext in disguise. Let's go deeper. Use a short, sharp sentence. you command. Stop. That's enough. Use along. Winding sentence with pauses and conditionals. You inject hesitation. You plant possibility. Now look at this technique, inversion. Instead of, you're getting defensive, because this is personal. Say, because this is personal. You're getting defensive. It sounds softer, but it cuts deeper. It leads their logic before they even notice. This is the psychology of syntax. Most people try to win by saying more. The powerful win by shaping how each sentence lands. Even question forms hold power. You're wrong triggers defense. But do you think that's accurate? Triggers reflection. One creates resistance. The other creates pause. And in that pause, you insert influence. Because here's the formula. Structure creates flow. Flow guides emotion. Emotion bypasses logic. And when logic is bypassed, behavior follows. You don't need permission to lead a conversation. You just need to build sentences that carry direction. It's not what you say. It's how you build the sentence that delivers it. So remember this. Structure doesn't support the message. It becomes the message. And once you learn to architect your language, you don't just talk. You steer. Let's start with this. No one wants to feel controlled. Even the most compliant person will silently resist if they feel their freedom is being taken. But here's the paradox. People will walk into the prison if you make the door look like a choice. Real influence isn't about force. It's about framing freedom. And the sharpest frame is built with syntax. You don't need to say, I need you to do this. You say, would it make more sense to do this now? Or after lunch, you've just offered a choice. But both paths lead to the same destination, yours. That's not negotiation. That's direction disguised as autonomy. Here's what's happening under the surface. When you offer a limited set of outcomes, you shift the brain from resistance to selection. It's not about if they'll comply. It's about which path they'll choose to comply through. And that shift from opposition to decision-making makes the person feel like they're in control. But they're not. You've just hijacked the process. Let's go deeper. Another phrase that creates this illusion, let me know what you decide. Sounds open, right? But it assumes one thing. You've already made them believe the decision is theirs to own. Even though you shaped the context, you planted the variables, and most importantly, you timed it. It's not suggestion. It's a script, hidden inside grammar. Think about parenting for a second. A parent doesn't ask, do you want to brush your teeth? They say, do you want to brush your teeth now or after your story? That's not just persuasion. That's framed autonomy. It works at every level of human interaction. Managers do it. Negotiators do it. Partners do it. Leaders do it with precision. They don't tell. They don't even ask. They plant the illusion of choice, while quietly removing every real alternative. And when you remove resistance without force, that's invisible dominance. Now, let's get clinical. Why does this work? Because the brain prefers closure over confrontation. When you structure a sentence that opens a loop, the listener rushes to close it on their own. That's when you embed your outcome. Here's a subtle example. I assumed you already looked into that. That one sentence triggers doubt, responsibility, a need to validate or explain, all without direct blame. You never said they failed, but your grammar made them think they did. That's the real trick. It's not about sounding smart. It's about sounding casual while cutting deep. Because when people feel like it's their own mistake, they rush to fix it. You never pushed. They pulled themselves. Let's break it down. What do you want to do about this? I figured you'd want to handle it your way. This is probably something you've already considered. Each sentence opens a loop. Each one removes resistance. Each one guides without grabbing. Because the syntax doesn't just speak. It suggests. It nudges. And the listener completes the thought inside your frame. That's not just smart communication. That's covert behavioral design. And by the time they realize it, they're already acting out your logic as if it were their own. So next time you want control, don't issue commands. Don't defend your point. Don't over-explain. Just craft the structure. Let them believe they're steering, while you quietly hold the map. Because the moment they say, "This was my idea," you've already won. And remember this, real control feels like freedom until it's too late to change course. Let's make something clear. You don't need to raise your voice. To shake someone's confidence, sometimes all it takes is a perfectly structured sentence. One pause. One shift. One oddly placed word. And suddenly, the room goes quiet. That's the power of emotionally charged syntax. You felt it before. Someone says, "That's not wrong." They didn't insult you. But something in the delivery hit harder than a direct attack. Or they say, "You always have a unique way of doing things." Unique. It sounds like a compliment, but it lands like a judgment. Because here's the secret. The structure carried the subtext, not the words. Let's take this phrase, I wouldn't, but okay. Technically, they're giving you permission. But emotionally, you've just been told you're reckless, naive, or out of line. Without them ever raising a finger, this is emotional subtext loading. You don't inject emotion through shouting. You embed it through timing, placement, and delivery. The power isn't in what you say. It's in when you stop. The pause before the word. The hesitation before agreement. The side glance as you trail off. All of that is syntax. It's grammar weaponized. Let's run a test. Say this slowly, "I didn't mean it." Like that. Now say, "I didn't mean it." Like that. 2 extra beats. A new structure. Completely different emotional aftertaste. One sounds defensive. The other sounds passive-aggressive. Now here's why it works. Your listener's brain fills the space you leave blank. That's the trick. You suggest the feeling, they complete it. And once they do, they believe it was their conclusion, not your manipulation. So here's the tactical key for voiceover control, the air between words. Don't rush. Don't fill the silence. Use half sentences. Use vagues modifiées. Some people, they just don't think ahead. You really think that was appropriate? I didn't expect that from you. Every example above uses syntax to signal meaning without direct confrontation. No accusation, no aggression, but still full impact. That's how powerful people speak. They don't stab. They slice softly. They let the listener walk away, unsure of what just happened, but deeply affected. It's not just what was said, it's what wasn't. That tension, that emotional weight, it's not random. It's syntactic pressure. Because in the right hands, grammar becomes gravity. So, next time you speak, don't just plan your words. Plan your rhythm. Plan your silence. Plan your implications. Let the weight of your sentence fall after the words are gone, because that's when people feel it most. And remember this: a cold sentence, delivered slowly, leaves a hotter scar than a loud one ever could. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is half a sentence, because the human brain hates gaps. We're wired to complete what's unfinished, to fill the silence, to resolve what feels broken. And that's where you gain control. This is strategic incompleteness, the art of saying less, to make them think more. You don't need to accuse. You just need to imply. Watch what happens when you say, "I thought you knew." That's it. You didn't say what they missed. You didn't even say they were wrong. But you dropped a frame of failure and walked away. Now they're scrambling. Or this, I guess we're done here. Are you asking? Are you confirming? Are you disappointed? You never said. And that's the genius. They'll fill in the rest, usually with self-doubt. Here's the rule: you don't create the meaning. You create the space and let them build the meaning themselves. Example: it's not my place to say. And then stop. That line burns more than any insult, because it suggests you know something. You're withholding something. You're judging without saying it. It's like dropping a match and watching them light the fire on their own. Now here's what makes this technique elite. It removes your liability. They can't say you insulted them. They can't quote you. They can't point to what you did wrong, because you didn't finish the sentence. They did. And once someone finishes your sentence, they own it emotionally. That's called the psychological handoff. You frame the emotion, they take the bait, and then they react to something you never even said. Let that sink in. You didn't manipulate them. They manipulated themselves in your direction. This is why pause equals pressure. Most people fear silence, so they fill it with noise. But the powerful use silence to steer. They say, well, that's one way to look at it. And then wait. That wait, that pause, it becomes a mirror. The other person starts projecting, explaining, apologizing, second-guessing, all while you remain still. So, here's your tactical takeaway. Next time you want to assert power, don't finish the sentence. Say, if that's how you feel, stop there. Or I wouldn't go that far. But let it hang. Because when you leave space, you invite vulnerability. And the one who speaks next is always at a disadvantage. Final line to remember. The most dangerous thing you can do is let them finish your silence. Hard control. Let's get one thing straight. You don't need to raise your voice to dominate a room. In fact, the quieter your tone, the sharper your structure must be. Welcome to Grammatical Coldness, the strategy of using soft phrasing to deliver hard control. You've heard it before, that's your choice. If that works for you, I'll go with whatever you decide. At first glance, they sound gentle, polite, respectful. But listen again. There's something underneath. A current, a pressure, a quiet frame that says, you're making this decision, and you'll carry the weight. It's not just what's said, it's how the sentence is structured. The softness is a mask. The structure is the blade. Let's break one down. That's your choice. 4 words. No judgment, no emotion, but it transfers full responsibility. If things go wrong, it's on you. Now let's try. If that works for you. It sounds like freedom. But it's a trap. Because the subtext is, I'm detached. If it fails, it's on you. If it succeeds, I let you choose. Either way, I win. That's power. Without resistance. Now here's the psychological trick. When people feel they're being given freedom, they stop resisting. But when the grammar quietly binds them to the outcome, they unconsciously step into your frame. It's compliance through syntax, not volume. Here's another classic. I'll go with whatever you decide. Sounds supportive, but the sentence is loaded. Because it silently says, you take the risk. You take the lead. I'm observing, not engaging. And when things fall apart, they'll look at you, not me. This is leadership by removal. Influence by absence. And that is colder than any confrontation. Let's be clear, you don't need to speak with authority. You need to structure with precision. Grammatical coldness is the scalpel of social dominance. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's sliced deep. People feel it, but they can't trace it. Because you never raised your tone. You just shifted the burden with a whisper. Here's your rule. Cold grammar is sharper than hot tone. So next time you're in a tense situation, don't escalate. Don't assert. Just drop a soft line with sharp structure. Like, do what you think is best. And then, stay silent. Let them carry the weight. Let them feel the shift. Because when your grammar is cold, your presence becomes fire. Power listens. Let's wrap this with a truth. Most people never hear. Influence doesn't live in what you say. It lives in how your words are built. Not in the content, but in the construction. Because every sentence is a blueprint, a soft command, a hidden map. And once you learn to arrange those structures with intent, you stop arguing. You stop chasing clarity. You simply shape perception. By design, the loudest person in the room isn't the most powerful. The one who structures their silence is. So here's your call to action. In the next 24 hours, don't change your voice. Change your syntax. When someone challenges you, don't defend. Pause. Let your silence hold the frame. Then respond with structure, not emotion. Say less. Let the pressure build. Use phrasing that places responsibility without sounding forceful. Try. That's your call. If that feels right to you, I'll trust your judgment. No threats. No push. Just framing through sentence form. And you'll notice something strange. They'll start adjusting, reframing, filling the silence you created. Because syntax doesn't just guide thoughts, it shapes who holds the emotional weight. Here's the final truth. You don't need louder words. You need sharper grammar. Because when you control the syntax, you rewrite their perception. Structure is power, and power is quiet.